All right, I appreciate that. So I think we're going to leave this right now, and we're going to turn it over to Sharon and Jane, who are going to take on the next little topic we're going to talk about. And I appreciate everybody's thoughts here. I just think that we need to pay more attention to ethics and to recognize that our sellers we need to make sure that it works for them too, and that we're not taking advantage of anybody in all of this. I mean, it's their equity, it's their house, and they are not as sophisticated as we are for the most part, like Jason said. And so taking care that we are taking care of them is important to me too. All right, Jane and Sharon, over to you. So Jane and Sharon, I've known them for what, 7, 8 years now?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
And they were up here in the Baltimore area and then decided to get out of Dodge and move where it's warm. And they've been just kicking, what, ever since down there. And so they are really very, very successful in the residential realm. I still do some of it, but not like they do at all. So they are kind of working, they are kind of in the lead or helping us as a team. We're all a team in the residential real estate realm. And so let me turn this over to them.
Thank you for that. Hey guys, like Nicole said, we're full-time real estate investors. We retired from a government job, so we did move from Baltimore. Thank goodness. We still have a few properties there if anybody wants to buy them. Call us. Yeah, we definitely got out of there. And that goes to tonight's topic. So it's how to vet a property manager, and we wanted to tie in with Nicole's subject a little bit. But it's actually how to vet them before you get them, and we've made a ton of mistakes here. We don't really have slides or anything. We just kind of talk about it. So that's what we're going to be talking about tonight.
Okay, Sharon here. First things first, where to locate them, and get the referrals for the actual property managers. You can go through brokers and agents, and one reason why brokers and agents, that's a good source to go through, because a lot of states require property managers to be a real estate agent or a realtor. One of them, we do, we buy houses in different states as well, and Georgia, that's one of them where you're required to be a real estate agent to be a property manager. Other investors, they have success with the property managers. That's what we usually go through, other investors, to get our property managers. The internet, just doing searches and seeing what their if they had reviews, all their ratings and reviews. Friends and family who are renters, see if they're happy with the property manager and how they conduct themselves and how they treat the tenants. And insurance companies, they have to go out and assess the house and look at the house, and they can see how the house is, if it's in disarray or it's in good shape.
They can definitely tell you if there's a slumlord or not. And one of my favorites is the friends and family that rent, because they definitely will give you a different side. I mean, you always hear the property management side, but if they had a water leak or something important, and it took them 2-3 weeks to get out there, then that tenant is not going to be happy. So we've heard a lot of stories about that from friends. So that's a different angle. And we definitely like that one. And then before we even, we gather up the names, and then before we even, put a lot of heavy work into it, before the call, we'll just research those names, either personally and the company, or both. So you can kind of get the top of the trees, who the property management owner is and the company, and then do a little research. That's pretty easy on the internet. Reviews, go to their apartments or houses or whatever they're managing, and see what kind of reviews they got, or if they're got bad ones. And then after that, you're going to set up some interviews, and then you're going to call. So these are some of the things that we go through.
And ascertain their experience level as an owner and as a company. how long have they been in business, if they are actually investors themselves. How many employees, if it's a big company, a little company, how many employees they have, how many subs they have, maintenance crews, and then check the company through the records and see if they're in good standings.
You definitely want them to be. Well, we have Sunbiz down here and SDAT up in Maryland where you guys are. So like just check that and make sure they're in good standing. Next thing we want to make sure on the call is the asset class. You know, we have a lot of C, D, B minus in different areas. So you don't want a D property manager trying to handle a or a D vice versa, because it just, you know, they're not going to know how to handle the C if they're used to A. So you just want to make sure that they're in that asset class that you want. And then something else we do, we request some of the addresses of their properties. So, you know, we get 5, 6 of their addresses, and then we'll drive by them, or we'll have our team drive by them. Because then you're going to see if they hold the tenant to mowing the grass, or, you know, if the house is falling apart, then they're not doing a very good job of protecting your asset.
And the type of rentals that you have, the asset type, like if you have long-term rentals, Section 8s, vacation rentals, maybe student housing, find out their area of expertise, or if they're able to, you know, do a mix or do well with each different realm. Or you might want more than one property manager if you have a portfolio of regular long-term houses, and then you have like Airbnbs. That's a specific niche, so you probably will definitely want more than one.
So yeah, you definitely don't want your Airbnb people to be handling your long term, because that's a whole different thing. And then the next question we ask, and this is before we even get to some of the harder questions, but the software, like what do they use? You know, is very popular, and some people still do with Excel. You know, put all their properties on Excel, but are they using Buildium or Appfolio or some of the new ones out there? Do they provide you with codes so you can get in and actually see what's going on with your properties? If you give them 20 properties and they're not letting you kind of get in the system to look at your properties, that's a little bit of a flag. You want to see the financials and how they collect the rents and all that stuff. And then that's another thing. How do they collect the rents? Are they doing it all electronically? In this day and age, you know, we want a good portion, I'd almost say 95%, to come in electronically, because if it's a, you know, check, the check's in the mail, that whole story, it got stolen, Western Union, like we've heard it all. So we want, you know, even have what alternative means, because the kids today, they have these alternative banks with, I don't even know what they do, but you know, it's like they can't use that, and then they got to go to Walmart. So you got to make sure your property manager can take any form of electronic money that comes in, because you don't want them saying, "Oh, I'll get it next week," or "I'll drop it off." So you want to get that in right away.
And what other services they provide, their company provides, would be important, because you want to make sure that they're on top of things to maintain and fix the issues that arise, especially here in Florida with the hurricanes coming through. You want to make sure that they have access to, you know, good roofer and, you know, some contractors that to run the gamut with flood mediation, wind mediation.
And this is one we don't particularly like, when the property management company owns their own contractor. And we've had a little bit of experience with that, because they'll say, "Oh, you need A, B, and C," and their prices are typically higher. And we do a lot of stuff in different states like Nicole, so we're in 10 different states. So we have to have a good team. And, you know, a lot of people say, "Hey, we can do your property management, we can do your contracting," but then how do you really know if there's no checks and balances for you to kind of say, "Hey, you're charging us too much, that didn't really need fixed." I mean, we do a lot of things on FaceTime and Zoom, but you still want that, you know, outside person to come in, and you know that you're getting your three bids and they're doing right by you.
And when we did have that issue, we actually got another contractor and handyman that went through the property and just gave their prices and their advice, and, you know, looking at the house and the issues and the damages. And Oh,
Yeah, and then this is kind of the last question we ask, but most people ask it first, but we kind of asked it last. So what's your fees? Most people expect that first, and then, they'll either, a lot of people say there's a flat fee or what their percentage is. I don't really like the flat fee just because there's typically a ton of up fees with, oh, I took pictures, so that costs this, or advertising that costs that, or tenant placement costs this, or eviction. So it's really typically just, what are your fees? If they are a flat fee company, you want to know specifically and go through the whole list of everything you can think of, because they'll think of something else that they can charge you for. So, and then if they do give you a percentage and anywhere, it's typically, I've heard as low as 6, but typically 8 to 10. If they're a good property management company, we don't mind giving them 10% because they probably are the hardest working folks for as little as money as they do get. So we don't mind the 10% as long as they're taking care of our property and doing what they should, and there's no extra fees. We have a very good property manager in Gary, Indiana. That's where we have, a good amount of rentals, and he looks after them and goes above and beyond. So we don't mind giving him that 10%.
Exactly. And then when you have more properties, you give them more properties, then they do bring their prices down as well. So.
And then just some of with the fees, just some related questions. How long do the evictions take? The days on market for your rentals, if their rentals sitting on there for 60, 90 days, you don't want that. Like how quick can you get that rented? They should have some kind of waiting list. So how long is it going to fill? What lawyer do they work with? If they really have some troublesome, some folks, if they're like kind of scrounging around, they don't really have an attorney, you might want to make sure they have somebody on standby. How often do they do inspections? And inspections is one of those things that some companies will charge fees for. So they'll come back and say, hey, I did quarterly inspections for X amount of dollars, but that should kind of be built into their fee.
Yep.
And we like them to do more regular inspections, every couple months or 3 months. We actually had one property manager that did them every month. They would take the filter in. That's always a good reason, is take the filter in to change it out, and then you just get a quick look around. But, the more they do it, the more they're going to catch problems with, dogs that don't belong there, snakes that don't belong there,
Other people.
people unauthorized, them doing drugs, whatever else, tearing up the property.
We did have some houses that we were renting out in Baltimore City, and we were vetting several different property managers. We had 3 of them. We always like to try to interview and vet 3 of whatever we're trying to hire for, a minimum of 3. And one of them actually said, well, I can be your property manager, but I don't set foot in the city. And we're like, well, the houses are in the city. Well, yeah, I could still do it, but I won't drive in the city. It's like,
yeah, wouldn't even drive down to look at the house. So that
was going to manage the property. I was like, I didn't know how that would look, but
yep, that was a no. And we're going kind of quick here because we're trying to keep this to I think 15-20 minutes, and we're already over. But we'll finish this up really quick. So also we want to get a property management agreement. So we want to kind of get that up front on the phone interview. Just have them email it to us and kind of get a look at that. That should set out all the fees. And then if you want to add anything to it, always you can, add an addendum or addition to it, the stuff that you expect.
And then how do they screen their tenants? What systems do they use? Do they do credit checks, background checks? Do they actually reach out to their references and talk and speak to the references? The income, the employment. We actually, when we get a new property manager, we ask them to give us the 2 or 3 that were yeses for them to put in our property. And then we go behind them and do our own checks and vetting and skip tracing. And there's been times where we would not have put that person in the house, or we found things wrong that they shouldn't be in the house that the property manager missed. So sometimes you got to do spot checks on the property managers and continue to do it throughout too. Don't just, not at the beginning, but every maybe 6 months, continue to do that, because you don't want them to be slipping.
Yeah, definitely. They were going to put a felon in one of our nicer houses in Florida. So didn't want that to happen. So, and then, you kind of get a good feel. You might narrow it down to 2 or 3. We still like to, go in person and talk to 2 or 3 of them, just because in person you get the good feel. We do a lot elsewhere, so we have to be more cognizant there that our team can go and take care of that. But and then you're going to agree to meet in person, and then maybe just go walk a property or two that you have if they're vacant, or however you're trying to accomplish that. And you're going to notice your good property manager is going to see things wrong or problems, or even maybe that's something that you forget to put the fire extinguisher in, or you don't have smoke detectors. See if they notice that, and if they're not noticing those little kind of things, maybe that's not the person that you want to do that. And then just one other maybe silly thing, we just see if they'll give us their cell phone or their office phone or their home phone. If they're not really likely to give a cell phone or a home phone, we kind of like one of those options, because then are you going to be able to get a hold of them, if you really need them. So
And like quick questions would, how many investment properties do you have? You would ask them. Current rate, vacancy rate, collections ratio, delinquency rate. And why should we use your company? And then you can turn it around and say, why would you be interested in hiring us?
right. And they're just like when you're in person, I think you get a better feel of that person. So if they're kind of hemming and hawing and looking up and doing all this stuff with their vacancy rates, if they say they don't have any vacancies, that's kind of a flag. So you kind of get a feeling of what they're actually about. And then while you're in person, like and then finally it's all about you, because sometimes the problems are you got to take a look in the mirror, and it could be you. So are you the right owner for them? And things that they should be asking you is, what are your reserves? Do you guys pay on time? Are you going to be a micromanager? Or they won't come out and say it, but are you going to be a pain in my ass, basically? But I mean, you want them to ask the hard questions too, because if they're just like, okay, we'll take you, whatever, then maybe that's not the right person, and they're just like looking for as much business as they can get as quick as they can get.
And use all the above, and also use your judgment, your gut instinct. That doesn't steer you wrong. If something is off or seems off, then likely most of it is going to be off.
And this has always worked well for us, and it's just like every time we go against our gut, it's usually a disaster. So a couple property managers have not worked out well for us. And then just one other thing, you can talk with them, it's probably for later, but just bonuses for performance. That's always going to be numbers driven. So no vacancies, no collections, no evictions, they get an extra bonus, and that's just keeping them happy, so they want to keep around you. We do, like, you can buy the property right, you can buy your rental right all day, and you can get the best numbers and the best contract and the best everything. But at the end of the day, if the property manager doesn't take care of it, and it's a disaster that way, you'll lose money. And here to say we've done that. Early on, we were very new, had just kind of started buying rental properties, and met a young guy, and he was new, and then it was everybody's happy, and we're going to grow up together, and we're going to do big things, and you're going to be the property manager. And that did not work out well. He didn't know what he was doing. We didn't know to call him out on it. Money got stolen, no accountability, no nothing. So that was a big lesson for us. And probably it's taken us a couple years, but I think we know how to vet them now. And that's just a brief summary. We could go a lot deeper and
Tell more war stories.
tell more war stories, or hear your war stories, or you guys have any questions or comments?
So have you guys found that just generally speaking, you've had better luck with a smaller property manager, husband and wife, a couple, they might run, 100 units, something like that, or a huge company that, has a huge staff and all that other kind of stuff?
I think for us, we've had better luck with husband, wife, and that's just we just have a really good guy in Gary, Indiana. So that's been certainly a very positive experience. We have a mid-sized company in Georgia, but manages some of our properties in Florida. They've done very well for us, and like my phone doesn't even ring with them, so that's been a plus. Now we've had a very big company that's national, and that was up in Baltimore. And as everybody knows, Baltimore is just a tough animal. So a national company trying to do that was our mistake with trying to have somebody that really didn't have a super grip on Baltimore. But so I think it just depends.
Yeah.
On the market,
I
maybe.
think the smaller
Yeah.
company, because they know, like Jane brought up a good point, instead of trying to do it naturally, they know that area and the rules and regulations and the how, the time frames, and, you get to know lawyers and judges and the court systems in that section. So
Sure.
And I know down here for us, if we had to walk in court with our property manager, like our property manager just walks in and they're like, okay, you're evicted next, because they do things the right way. But it's local and everybody knows that he does the things the right way, and it's not going to be a big, crazy slumlord thing. So he doesn't handle properties that are a mess. And, Florida is a lot more lenient than Maryland. I mean, sometimes to a fault. When we first got here, we were
she means like landlord friendly, not
Yeah, they're-
tenant friendly.
yeah, they're very landlord friendly, but also they let the landlords get away with stuff that they should not. And it goes against our grain. When we first came here, we were looking at a condo to purchase, and the air conditioned unit was a window unit, and it was sitting on the kitchen counter running. That was the air condition. There was no ventilation. There was
No windows open,
no
nothing.
windows open. And we just were like, okay, we're out. We didn't even want to be on the chain of the lawsuit for that one. And then the another time there was
It was one that, it was an investor who we were talking about, how is it Section 8 around here? And he said, I don't want Section 8 properties because I don't want the government telling me that I should put smoke detectors and CO units in
Oh,
my
jeez.
houses. And we're like,
we were
well,
like,
wouldn't you want to protect?
when you want to, if you don't care about your tenant, then that's a big problem, but when you want to protect your house. But it's different strokes. We've seen some really crappy houses down here, but we see them up in other parts that we handle too. So I guess it just matters. But
Sure.
I have a question.
sure.
When you first started out, did you ever do any of your own property management?
Yes.
Yes, I don't recommend.
We don't like it at all. I mean, some people, they do well with it, but we just,
It's not our cup of tea. And for us, we find that we get drawn into the problems of the person. Like if we do start to finish with the application and the interview and all that, and then you start hearing their problems, and then they can't pay the rent, and then you get sucked into that whole story of, okay, we'll give you a break, and then the next month is another break. And so it's just easier to distance yourself and have somebody else do it. Some people love it and they like doing it, and
neither of us like
neither
that.
of us like it.
And I know you said that to be a property manager in Georgia, you have to have a real estate license. Well, I have a mentor in Florida because I'm actually from the Florida Panhandle, but I'm here for work for a couple months in Maryland. But she's on a much smaller scale than you guys. She only has 6 properties, so she does her own property management. But I think you have to have a real estate license to be a property manager in Florida too. So is what she's doing illegal?
No, I don't think so, because you can have your own properties. It's just, and we know we know a couple people that they handle their own, and then other people that they handle their friends and family or their family. But I think you can handle your own. You just can't, go out and get 20 people you don't know and be the property manager for that.
It's funny. I didn't realize it was the law in Florida for that. I would have to.
I'm not 100% sure, but
I think you're right. I do
I
think
was
you're
going to
right.
say, I think because we've, most of our houses we have here, we do lease options and then we handle them ourselves because that's like a little bit different than a regular tenant lease.
Okay. Thank you.
Which is part of the reason why we went to the lease option was because of the property managers that we had initially that we weren't very good at. So follow our advice, not what we did.
Okay.
I think it is, can everybody hear me still?
Yes.
People always have the right to manage properties they own. And I think that's ubiquitous across the country. You just can't always manage other people's properties if you don't have any equitable interest in the property. And the Board of Realtors would really like to see that in every country in the United States, you know.
I'm sure they
Right,
would.
right.
Because that's, well, the one property manager actually that we'd use here is, they have a brokerage, so they're one of the best ones around the area, so that would make sense.
Have you ever
Any other-
considered training your own property managers? Like starting your own company?
Never, I
No.
haven't really thought of that.
Nicole could speak to that maybe.
We do. At this point, starting in April, my property management company is going to managing all of my portfolio across the country. But that's been a long time coming to try and get there. So started on the west and move into the east, and so it's about another 30 days, and not my job anymore, but. It's still, you know, because I own it, but I have a CEO. Well, I own it with partners, let's be clear. It's not just me. But I think it helps in a lot of ways if you have enough units to make that seem reasonable. But it's also another income stream if you want to learn that. And I think Jane was the one that said it. It's really, in the long run, it's more important how you manage than how you buy. And so really getting that knowledge, skills, and ability in some way, shape, or form is key to your long-term success.
So do you think it'd be a smart idea to try to be your own property manager in the beginning?
I think you learn a lot by doing that. When I started, I worked full-time for the government, and so I just plain didn't have time to do it. And I was traveling a lot. And so I never have really managed my own properties. And I probably wouldn't be particularly good at it, because if somebody has a sufficiently good sob story, I'm probably there to help them, right? And that's just not really good for long-term viability, I don't think. And so I need somebody to be that intermediary. So
Yeah, I think that's the biggest part with us as well. You know, and even our lease options, we eventually just had to find somebody to, you know, because we were vetting them ourselves as to whether we put them in there or not. And we found that we've lost the most money on our properties when we're in the mix. So we're kind of our worst enemy for the sob stories. And, you know, every month they would be late, or, you know, can I pay at the 15th or all that stuff. But as soon as we got that in-between person that, you know, she kind of read them the riot act about, you know, why they're not paying their bills and stuff. Now they just pay on time, so we don't hear from them, except like Merry Christmas and holidays and stuff.
Yeah, that was one of the best decisions we made, is getting an acquisition manager on board to deal with a lot of those things. And that way the distance is real, you know, does well. So they can say, you know, listen to the sob story, but say, I'm the manager for the company. I'm not the owner. So the owner expects it to be done this way. So it's kind of that separation. Because once they know that they can get away with things, it doesn't stop, especially at the beginning. If they have like the first 6 or 8 months, if they have an issue, it's
going to get worse.
It's going to get worse and worse. That's what we've noticed with our mistakes. I'm sure Nicole has the same situation.
Yeah,
She's
absolutely. That's sort of, there's a lot to be said about, managing like you're dealing with kindergartners.
And then the whole, if you're managing your own property and you're new and a beginner, and it's the whole process of eviction and the courts and going through and doing the proper paperwork, that's a whole new animal too. And if you don't know how to maintain that or manage that, then they'll stay in there longer, or a lot of times the tenants know the rules better than the landlords or the owners of the property. So they know the tricks.
So I don't think it's a bad idea to try and learn the craft, and that's property management included.
Yes.
But you can learn it from hanging around a good property manager too, and getting them to teach you. You can learn it by doing it yourself with, for a few properties. I just think that sometimes you don't know what you don't know when you step into that. If you don't have somebody who can back you up and tell you that you're walking down the wrong road. I think when we all start in this business, I think we're somewhere on the scale of incompetent. And you just have to learn as you go, right?
Yeah, I feel that. I'm definitely a rookie, but I've been following my mentor around.
Okay.
And like I said, she does her own property management, and that's basically her full-time job. And I already have a full-time job. So I think I'd definitely go more the route of like hiring someone.
Yeah, I think it's a 10% well spent,
Yeah.
basically. And once you get more and more properties and it's the same property manager, you can bring that price down, particularly when you have enough doors that you can start hiring some of your own staff. So the property management company would manage them, but you're paying the bill out of your LLC.
Mhm.
And so once you start doing that, what they can charge drops to 6-7% most of the time. And so you're just switching, you're still paying it, you're just switching who you're paying and how you're going about it. So, and generally about 40 doors, you can start having a part-time person at least manage your leasing and those kinds of things.
Gotcha.
So what do you guys find that you do to manage your managers once you have them on board and been working with them? It seems like things are going fairly well. What do you do to sort of keep things in check? And do you visit properties physically yourself sometimes, or just what are your thoughts?
I think it's like spot checks for us, and again, because we, like Gary, Indiana, we've only been there once, so we have not even seen some of our properties live. But and I think people do get complacent when they know you're out of town or that you can't just swing around the corner. So for us, we always, whatever market we're in, we always make sure we have more than one person. So, and some of the markets that we've went into in different states, it's because we have an affinity for it, because we have family there, we have friends there, we have, other people that we're in different groups with, so we can have them ride by the property. So that's one thing that we do is, we'll just have them, hey, ride by the property and see what you see. Because if we're getting some story that everything's great and then we get there and the roof's falling down and the tree fell down on the house and some other stuff, that's kind of like the spot checks are the best thing for us. And then, keeping on top of financials, that was one of the things we did early on, that, there was no real accountability for that particular young guy that was, he was just throwing it in his bank account, which is his personal account, and, things got mixed up. And so just, making sure you get that financial, checkup. And that's, now the systems are such, all these systems, you can have access to without having all their properties. And I think so just keeping a check on those things and spot checks and keeping that open communication with, hey, how's everything? We don't call just when things are bad. We want to call when things are, everything's going good, but just call and make sure everything's okay. If we don't hear from them for a while, then that's a problem. We'll send somebody around to check on the actual property manager.
And
What sort of
Nicole was saying-
I'm sorry.
I was gonna say what Nicole was saying is spot on too. Like when they do a good job, we send them like packages or gift cards or something that, so, show them appreciation, because people are always coming around when things are going bad, not when things are going good.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we kind of have the same school of thought of Nicole with that.
What sort of other incentives have you given, and for what reasons? Such like evictions, or like, I've always been sort of from the school of thought. Nicole was saying that I was the opposite end. This is really making me think very differently about focusing a little bit more on incentivizing good behavior on property management, as well as as the last session for tenants. I'm always focused on the bad. So so what sort of things have you implemented with?
I think we would give them a bonus, end of the year bonus. Like I said, gift cards to nice restaurants or something.
Yeah.
Little, even along the way, smaller, like little gift cards, Starbucks or something with a thank you card goes a long way with people as well. Actually, that would have been a good idea for a property manager, but we have a really good title company lady that works in the title company, and she goes above and beyond for us. So we had an Airbnb on the beach, and we let her and her family go stay and had a nice vacation there on the house. So it's not even you don't even have to do huge amounts of things, just to show appreciation a little bit does really go a long way.
It's really weird with the Starbucks gift cards. Like most people, that's like the best thing ever. Like when they get that, they're just like, oh my God, like you would have thought you gave them the world. But
And we have a credit card. What is it? The American Express, where you get points and you can buy gift cards with the points. And that's what we always just use it for, gift cards. And then that's what we give out. So it doesn't cost us any money, just, using our points. And then it goes a long way for other people.
Yeah.
And another point, we were talking about the checks and balances. We were like asking for videos and pictures of certain properties. And then we found out that some of the pictures weren't our property. It was another property that might have looked like it. So now we make them pan out and show picture or video of the whole house, address, and then go into the house. So, lesson learned, or we're on, live FaceTime or some sort of, live with them walking around the house. So we can say pan up, pan down, go here, show the electric box, show the water, just different things. So we're actually there, but not there with them.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Of course.
Other questions for anybody?
about this or anything else?
Random question, because I'm from Florida too. Which area are you guys from?
Sarasota.
Okay, cool.
We actually have we sell it on a land contract, but it's a house up in Bonifay. That's up in the Panhandle, right?
I used to live there.
Oh,
Okay.
that's so
Yeah,
cool.
it's like the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, but it certainly
It's
is.
right against, like right near Alabama line, isn't it?
Yeah,
Is it really close to the line?
Floribama.
Yep. We actually got that. That was weird how we just we got it to wholesale, because we do if we don't like the properties or we don't have an affinity for them, we'll just wholesale them. But that was one that I put it on Facebook to wholesale, and when I woke up, I think I had 100 messages off a marketplace.
Oh,
That
wow.
people wanted to, like, they were like, can we do rent to own, or can we do lease option? So I guess it was 2019, so it was after the hurricane a little bit, and there was a lot of displaced people. So put
Yeah.
a family in there. They're doing perfect. They're gonna buy it, and all is well.
Thanks.
Which area do you live in now,
Like
Jennifer?
Panama City Beach, Destin area.
Oh,
Okay.
that's nice.
But
That's-
I'm doing travel nursing in Maryland up here for 3 months.
Wow,
wow,
that's
cool.
great.
So I haven't
Rare.
officially bought my first property yet, but as soon as I get back home for my next contract, I'm gonna try to get a contract in like Lower Alabama, so I'm closer to home. I was planning on doing my search then and saving my money from my contract to get a property.
That's perfect.
Awesome. Is Dothan still a good place?
Yeah,
Dothan, yeah.
We were looking.
We
there,
looked
so
around for there. We like that.
We
area.
like getting houses.
that's where I was gonna try to do my next contract at.
Yep, awesome. Good area.
We like
Yeah.
picking up bank owns. Well, that's one of our favorite, like HUD Home Store, bank owns, Hudson and Marshall, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I actually got interested in this field because I cannot be a nurse forever. I can't do it. But I'd like to, my goal, I don't know how realistic it is, but my goal is to get like 5 to 10 properties this year.
Awesome. Good goal to shoot for.
Yes.
It's a numbers game, so the more offers you put in, the more chance you have of getting them.
And this,
Yeah.
and as the market goes down, then there's more opportunity for different type of creative finance, like owner finance it from them, lease op, I mean, not lease option, subject to.
lease
lease
option.
Yeah.
Any
lease
kind of
option.
option.
I
Any
was
kind, yeah.
going to try to look into the Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac loans. Do you recommend that?
I think HUD is probably, the HUD auctions are probably a better and easier place to start, frankly.
Okay.
You got to make sure
So-
you go to the investor portion.
Yeah. So I just kind of, by the way, I'm a nurse by background too. That's how I started out.
Oh,
So, yeah, so
Awesome.
many years ago, but,
So was I.
oh,
16
yeah,
years.
wow, yeah,
Oh my
yeah.
God.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right, you
I'm in
guys got to get
med-surg right now.
6,000. You guys got to get 6,000 doors in a hurry. Catch up with Nicole.
That's the plan.
Cool.
Well, it starts somewhere,
that's-
everybody.
That
Go
that's
ahead.
good for you, Jennifer. You could like when you go around to your areas, you're
Mhm.
in Maryland now, so just, kind of search that area out so you could,
Yeah.
not recommending actually to start that way, but then you have just build a team up there as you're kind of moving around the country to nurse.
Yeah, because you could
Yeah.
always like wholesale houses or joint venture with other people, split profits.
Mhm.
There's so many things to do. That way, you have two, a second set of eyes looking at it and somebody with a little more experience. It's
Yeah.
funny, we even like joint venture with some contractors. They'll bring the rehab amounts, we'll bring the house, and then we'll split profits when we sell it. So there's so many different things you can do in avenues and ways you can learn and get in there.
Maybe
And
we can
that's-
work together in the future.
Sure,
Absolutely.
And that's actually one of the things that have Jane and Sharon are going to do, because there are probably 20 or 30 different creative strategies out there for residential. And that's one of the reasons they're kind of focusing on this, is trying to teach people some of these creative ways to buy or approaches that you can use to get started. I mean, it's just really, there's so much to it that I think,
Yeah. I
and
appreciate
what
it.
most people hear is wholesaling, rehabbing, and maybe buying a rental. But there's so many different things and approaches to this. It's just limited only by your imagination. And Jane and Sharon have got big imaginations.
Yeah, I've done like so much research on my own, but there's nothing like hearing actual expertise.
Yeah, and it's good. I think the big part, you just have to jump in and start doing stuff. We know a lot of people that just haven't. They go from class to class to class, and they, it's great to have the education and have access to it, or be able to go places and look up, or hear classes online. But you still, at the end of the day, you have to get out there and actually do it. And you
Mhm.
mess up, but if you don't do it, you didn't mess up because you didn't do anything. So I think you
Yeah, I
just have
kept
to get
telling
out there and
myself,
do it.
because I'm 23 now, and I've been telling myself for years, like even when I was like 18, 19, that I wanted to get into this eventually, even when I was in nursing school. And I just never did. And I was just thinking, if I never do it, it's never going to happen. So I figured I'd go ahead and start. So the last couple months I've been doing research on my own, and I decided to finally join this meeting website. And
Are you part of the virtual REI Academy?
I'm not sure. I randomly joined like so many different groups, like real estate groups, but I'll make sure I am. You said REAI.
It's the virtual REI Academy.
Okay.
James, do you happen to have that email or that URL, please?
Yeah, actually, I just put it in the chat. It's virtualreiacademy.com, Jennifer.
Virtual REAI.
REI.
REIacademy.com.
Yep, it's in the chat if you just want to cut and paste too.
Okay.
Hey, James?
Hey Jennifer, just another little bit of advice that'll get you off the computer too is just if you go to the HUD Home Store or an agent or whatever, just put in an offer. Like, make
Okay.
sure you give yourself some due diligence time or whatever, but especially the HUD Home Store, that really got us going. I think we could teach a class on just that alone, but because you can put offers in, and if you don't necessarily take them, they give you a couple days that if they don't take your offers, it's computer generated, and then they just throw it back in the thing. And like, there's nothing like getting that acceptance, and then you're like, okay, I can do this, and then you start figuring out the rest of it. So kind of getting that offer was kind of propelled us to really get moving. I think we probably got most of our properties, maybe 75%.
At the beginning.
Yeah, at the beginning, probably 75% were from the HUD Home Store.
Oh,
Because
wow.
that's like no harm, no foul. If you throw the properties back,
It's like fishing.
you don't get on a
They don't get
crap
mad at you.
list. You don't get on a crap list like Hudson and Marshall. When you get acceptance there and you don't take them, you get put on the list
You get put in the penalty box.
and you get
for
a
little
penalty
bit.
box for like 3 or 4 months where you cannot bid on any other houses until you get out of the penalty box. So they're
Mhm.
looking for, they don't want you to do that there, but
I actually think it's probably been several years ago and things may have changed, but I actually wrote a paper on how do you bid on HUD houses. So I may have to see if I can find that and figure out how to get that to people. It's certainly dated, and so you'd need to make sure that it's still current. But
Yeah, there's a lot of tricks of it. We learned a lot of the algorithms, and you have to bid every night. That was one thing we found out, that if you bid every night, it kind of kicked you up to the top. And sometimes we would bid really high to take it off the market until we could get all the due diligence done. So there's a lot of tricks to it.
there
But
really is. And if you like keep underbidding, the algorithms push the house down to a more reasonable
Mhm.
price.
well, not for the last 3 years, but
But
for 2 years.
This was
Pre people lost their minds and were paying $100,000 over what the ask was.
All right, we probably have time for 1 or 2 more questions, and then we've got a hard stop here.
Okay, hello.
Hey there.
Hi, Sharon and Jane. I have 2 questions actually. First question, do you guys own any tiny homes?
no.
Not yet.
We actually looked at one, but the
It was
numbers
too
weren't
tiny.
right.
No. The spread was too tiny.
Yes.
So the second question, I was looking at some tiny homes down in Florida.
Mhm.
What do you think about the market?
I think if that you can get the house at the right price point, and you can, like, it depends on what your strategy is for them. Do you want to flip them? Do you want to have like
Short-term rental.
Airbnbs, or in what area?
Yes.
I think it's a great idea as long you have, the strategy is, and you buy them right.
Mhm. Yeah,
What would you
What
do
would you-
with them?
rental. Just because I feel the economy is, a lot of people can't afford housing.
Yes. You're right, especially in Florida, so many people bought houses at such high price points, and they got them for like hard money or private money. And in order for them, so their monthly payments on the houses are so high that they have to rent it out for crazy amount of money, where the houses that people could rent a couple years ago for $1,200 a month is now going for like $2,000 to $2,500 a month. It jumped up, and there's no rental restrictions in Florida where you can raise the rent as high as you want to.
Hmm.
We actually had bidding wars on rentals. So and we know the guy, that it wasn't like some urban legend. It was, it was listed for, I think, 1,800, and then ended up getting to 3,900 or something.
It wasn't
my
our
gosh.
house. It was just, we knew.
He was looking for a rental that, he showed us all the messages and all that, started at 1,900 or something. I don't know. So,
Never seen a bidding war on rentals before.
and a lot of, places in Sarasota here, they're pricing people out because they've just raised the rent that high. And then, you got 2 kids working, blue collar jobs, or, whatever. They can't afford that.
So have you seen
And,
people that have like tiny homes, but they rent it out as a big Airbnb, like Airbnb type of things.
Yep,
Yes.
seen that too. Yep.
Have y'all rented to travel nurses? Because there's good money in that too. I rented
It's funny.
my extra
that you
room out to one of my travel nurse friends that was working at my hospital, and that was a good experience.
Awesome.
Wow, you rented you rented an extra room out. You actually did that.
Cool.
Yeah,
Smart.
she said that Airbnbs and hotels, because I live in like a vacation area, she said it was like $8,000 a month. So I only charged her $1,000 for the room, and she was super happy with that. I could have probably charged like $2,000.
Yeah, right.
That's smart. That's
Mhm.
smart.
Yeah.
A friend
But
of ours that
I'm in a group on Facebook for travel nurse housing, and people are literally like charging over $6,000 a month, like in California and stuff for rent.
Wow.
wow.
When you travel, the hospital pays for that, correct? Or do you get some kind of stipend? Okay. Right.
Yeah,
That's
it's a
probably why they
tax-free
charge more.
stipend.
Yeah.
So
Is there like
What group is it that you belong to on Facebook for the travel nursing?
Travel. It's like gypsy travel nursing.
I've heard that. Mhm.
Yeah, but people are definitely making a lot from renting to travel nurses.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we
it's
a friend of ours over in Brevard County just started that. She's picked up a bunch of houses like very quickly and creatively,
Yeah.
like lease option subject to, but it's close to a hospital. So she actually met with the hospital. So she's
Oh,
I think
wow.
cutting out the middleman, but trying to make it reasonable for everybody.
that's what I was going to
Yeah.
ask you, Jennifer. She didn't tell us who she talked to or whatever. Is there like somebody at the hospital that oversees that you
Um,
actually go to?
I have a recruiter who is like the middleman between me and the hospital, and she sends me like 1-bedroom apartments and stuff, like rentals in the area that I'll be traveling to.
Wow.
But right
What
now
part of Maryland are you in now?
I'm in Chestertown. It's really tiny.
They used to have a good ice cream place there called Apples.
Oh, I don't think
The
they have
Red
that.
Apple or something like that.
They have the freeze now. But
Oh, it's
I'm actually
more.
staying with a friend, but per IRS guidelines to receive my travel stipend, I have to pay them rent. Like they weren't going to, but I have to. So
Cool. Awesome.
Jennifer,
Win-win for everybody.
yeah.
I'm sorry, Jennifer, who's the recruiters again? I missed that part.
Oh, my recruiter, she finds me jobs in different places, and she'll be on the lookout for 1-bedroom apartments and stuff like that, or she'll connect me with other nurses doing a job in the area to try to see if we could share housing. But doing it that way, they pay only like the rent for the area, but if you find your own housing, you get to keep all the extra money tax-free.
Oh,
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah,
this is
so
like a
the
hospital.
group is called Travel Nurse Housing, the Gypsy Nurse. There's over 133,000 members.
Wow. Jeez.
That is a lot.
So
Yeah.
that's, you just gave all of, I can just see everybody's little investment antenna went up. Anybody who has a house for rent or get some lease options are going to go to that group and say, anybody need a house in Chestertown? We got
Yeah.
something for rent.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You just stole the show, Jennifer.
That was amazing.
Well, nurses are definitely desperate to find housing. So
That's a great market because the medical market is not going away. Like people aren't going to be able to afford vacations. So your
Yeah.
Airbnb is going to sit there. So this is a great opportunity.
So
And if you can
pivot.
undercut what the verbal and all of those by a little bit, you just have a nice in, right? So, I mean, I don't think that, the key to getting these is to be able to have a reasonable price. So they stay rented. Right?
well, I found that a lot of people overcharge nurses too,
Yeah.
because we do get a pretty hefty stipend and people know that.
Well, they have to be furnished and you have to have a lot of housekeeping. You have to pay a lot of them. Do you pay your own utilities or does the landlord pay the utilities?
Well, I'm staying with my friends, so I'm getting a pretty good deal right now. I don't have to pay for utilities and stuff, but when I charged my when I rented out to the travel nurse, we split the utilities in half.
Oh, okay. So you do pay your own utilities.
I did when I was living
Yeah.
at my own place, but here
Yeah.
I'm staying with friends, so I'm not.
No, I was asking kind of the broader question. But it's a furnished place. You have dishes, you have linens and things like that, right?
Yes.
All right, we only have a couple minutes left to go. So what are you guys going to talk about next week? Do you know, Jane and Sharon?
Well, we were thinking about broaching the subject of wholesaling, and maybe we'll throw in the ethics of wholesaling to.
What do y'all think of that? Do you want?
Or is there anything anybody would like us to delve into?
You said you could teach a class on the HUD homes.
Sure.
We can do that if you guys,
Yeah.
would you guys rather, let's talk about that?
I'd be interested in it.
Okay. Well, we'll get Nicole's paperwork on it too, because she'll probably teach us a couple tricks.
Does that sound okay, Nicole?
That sounds fine to me. I'm gonna have to find it. It's been a while, so, and don't expect it to be up to date. That's the only thing I'm telling you.
Yeah, I got you.
But I used to buy homes off of the HUD home store. And so did
I've missed the
Miranda.
HUD home store for 2
Yeah.
years.
I can't
Yeah,
wait till it
Miranda-
comes back.
Miranda and I used to do that a lot. So we got several houses that way.
Nice.
The HUD auctions, yeah.
You know, the way I started out, Jennifer, was I got them through the HUD home store, and
Yeah.
I did kind of like we lived in them. So we house hacked for our first 4 properties, and which is a pain in the neck. And I don't know if you're married, but yeah, well, it's good. Well, my wife didn't appreciate it, but now she does. But that's a great way too, as you can really get some really good prices if you do live in it for
Yeah.
a year. But
I
yeah,
gotcha.
That's smart.
It certainly is. All right, you guys, next week, huh?
Can I ask one more question? Ask a question for Jennifer.
Sure.
Yes. So what is your favorite feature of the home
The home that I'm staying in now.
as a nurse, travel nurse?
Well, I have my own room. I have a bed. All the utilities are paid for. It's close to the hospital. That's really the main thing that nurses are looking for, like how close it is to the hospital.
Oh, okay.
And especially night shift nurses like blackout curtains and stuff.
Do you guys normally get your own rental cars or the
I'm driving my own car. Most travel nurses drive their own car.
Oh, okay. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, guys. Thanks for hanging out with us, and we'll hopefully see everybody next week.
Next week.
thank you. Have a great night, everybody.
Thank you all.
Bye.
You too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
think I'm good here unless someone else brings something that will trigger my mind here.
Okay. Well, after we finish, we may get some questions and that'll be good.
All right.
We're just going to give it one more minute and then we're going to go ahead and get going. So